Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT Rostermania. Many big updates going on today with the Guard potentially re-signing Trent, and he will not go to a franchise team, but also Sentinels confirming Marved was practically top of their list going into this franchise league, but after he wasn't sure whether he wanted to compete or not, they went down the Sassy and Pancada route from Loud instead. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Plenty to discuss today. Firstly, this official premiere announcement. This is effectively the in-game tournament format to try and get yourself into the pro circuit. This is something that used to happen even back in Call of Duty way back in the day, when you could effectively play league play or ranked play to qualify for the World Championship. Now that is effectively the plan here. This is probably above Radiant to a certain degree. If you're good enough, you can play in Premiere, and if you're good enough in there, then like this is an in-game client stuff, then you can actually qualify for tournaments and get through, and effectively, like, well, the path to pro starts from within ranked itself, which is pretty cool stuff. You don't have to go outside of that and form a team outside. Like, the game itself will help you get there. So they're testing this first off in Brazil. Team creation, you can put your logo in, your tag, your roster. Seasons will last for a few weeks and we'll have an ending tournament. And then there's also a map pick and ban system, which is pretty cool. To reiterate, this is not in regular ranked. In normal game modes, you just get the map that you're given effectively, but there is going to be a kind of a veto format for this Premier tournament, and then still, obviously, like, not everything is sorted yet, but it is coming soon. So yeah, this is the Premier map pick and ban system, not going to be in regular ranked play, but it will be in Premier. So pretty interesting stuff that they're trying to implement something into the game where the path to pro begins from the gameplay experience effectively in ranked itself, rather than you have to go outside of that. So pretty cool stuff. It's something that's been done before elsewhere, and I'm guessing League of Legends probably has something akin to this, but it's coming relatively soon. If this wants to load, let's talk about it. Dephh, great player of course. He's going to be joining the Istanbul Wildcats, I believe, just as a stand-in player for now. So many teams from many regions are not really sure what they're planning to do, and a lot of them are actually not yet signing players for sure. They're more just kind of effectively signing stand-ins or substitutes or trialing players, really. So as they say, he's going to add strength as a stand-in. So they're effectively going to just, I guess, trial him, and then if it works out well, then they'll double down. But yeah, Dephh to the Istanbul Wildcats, it seems. This also from RRQ I thought was, like, it's kind of sad, but it's also hilarious to some degree. Team R, like, what an absolute disaster class of an organization. I don't know how they even got in, to be honest. But they, of course, initially Indonesian organization, went to sign a lot of Filipino players, and there was a lot of bounce back from the community, being like, hang on a second here, are you not meant to support, like, our scene? And then Riot apparently sent them a message to be like, hey, if you keep going down the route you're going, we're not going to be happy with you being a partner. So now they said, oh, we're not done with our roster building just yet. Let me just sign all these Indonesian players that we should have done in the first place. And now they're releasing some of their Filipino players, Nexi and Kelly S. Kelly S, funny name really, because, you know, well, it's Kelly S, but it's Kelly S. And they released them, right? And I feel bad for these guys because they were announced to the team just over a week and a half ago, probably. And then Riot said, no, you've got to get some Indonesian players. And then they were like, actually, yeah, sorry guys, we've got to let you go. And I don't know, they could have maybe kept one or two of these guys, but clearly RRQ was spooked hard by what Riot said to them, and they've just decided to effectively drop all the players they were going to bring on. So they're now claiming, oh yeah, it was just a trial period. We were just trialing these guys. We've decided not to go forward with them, but clearly there's something else here going on. With the conclusion of our extended trial period, the management and coaching team have agreed on sticking with a 6-man roster going forwards, and it will not include these fellas. So yeah, I don't know. They could have just done this in the first place, signed some Indonesian players, and they would have been fine. But they decided to try and go a little bit rogue, and eventually it's ended up screwing over some of these guys, because now the opportunities that Kelly S and Nexi might have had elsewhere might be gone because they spent a couple of weeks on this organization before Riot told them to not maybe do that anymore. Quick comment right here actually on SR. We believe that the former LG team, now SR team, is going to pretty much stay together next year. Marder, Moose, B-Dog, these guys. Apparently Vic actually, or V1C or whatever, is also going to be playing with them. So that's a current trial that might well be going on there. And also he confirmed last night, or at least tweeted this out, that potentially a deal has been signed. And if that is indeed the case, then you would imagine that that might be a thing, that SR Vic is a possibility. A lot of these teams in Ascension are starting to take shape, but the thing is really that a lot of these organizations, because there were so few teams that got into franchising from North America, a lot of the players that would have potentially got picked up haven't done, and therefore many of the kind of Ascension teams are pretty much just staying the same. It's pretty interesting to me because I would have thought that there'd have been much more Rostermania happening really in the tier 2 scene, but it turns out there's kind of not, just because so few of those players got signed to franchise teams, because there are so few of them, that a lot of these teams are actually going to stay together. So even as FNS says here, the best team ever. Thank you, Yay, Marved, Victor Crashies. Someone photoshopped Chet in as well. But yeah, what a team. These guys will be breaking apart, of course. Well, they have broken apart officially. Surprised as yet that the NRG confirmation hasn't come through for these guys. But one of the big questions over the last couple of weeks was Marved and where he could potentially go. And apparently the Sentinels offer was practically there, but yet Marved didn't really want to do it. So this is kind of what Zoms was suggesting as well. Thought this was kind of funny from zyppan actually. So they're saying, look, post a tweet for the Sentinels main account. zyppan will be taking an indefinite leave from the VALORANT team, going to Overwatch 2. We wish him the best of luck and welcome Zoms to our new roster for the upcoming Sao Paulo kickoff tour. That would be quite the timeline. But yeah, this is another part of the question, right? Zoms and, Shroud and Sinatraa and Stewie2K, these guys, where do they go in tier 2? Because it's not like, or even dapr, they can't necessarily just like slot in to a top tier 2 roster if that tier 2 roster, let's say the Guard, is practically the same from last year, right? There's going to be few changes and iterations. And that is, well, part of the discussion here on the Guard, because apparently they will re-sign Trent next year. Big surprise, the likes of Trent and BCJ and other really talented players in that ballpark last season are not going to get picked up to tier 1, and therefore they will be grinding it out again, once again it seems, in the tier 2 challengers circuit, and Trent is going to be part of the Guard to do exactly that. So yeah, makes sense for the Guard to re-sign Trent, but it's like, damn, this guy really blew onto the scene last season, made a lot of progress and turned a lot of heads, and then all of a sudden still not signing to tier 1, so will grind through with the Guard. And a lot of their team is going to be the same, the Guard, going into next season. Of course, Sire player is gone, in fairness, over to T1, and we think that Valin might be gone as well to EG as their IGL. That is one of the rumours that is presently going around. So yes, that is the situation with the Guard. And just to say this also quickly, because of course we already know what the Cloud9 roster is, but Sabrosa managed to join into a match yesterday and find what could be like a new Oxygen gaming team here. We see Whippy in with Verno and these guys from TSM at Oxygen. So yeah, something probably going on here. So stay tuned for that one. But I wanted to share a clip actually from, we saw a clip from this podcast a couple of days ago with Psycho and Wyatt talking about TenZ and the fact that TenZ was not so happy with his former roster. He also revealed, though, Psycho, that they were looking for a controller player that can clutch and can frag out. Marved was pretty much their candidate, right? They talked to Marved, they wanted him in, but Marved said, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to compete, I might want to take a break. And Psycho was like, okay, if you're not fully committed, then we can't move forward with anything like that. And quite quickly they pivoted to the Loud guys. But yeah, Marved was definitely top of their list.
It's really just, Sentinels, they had a pretty, they had a roster in mind that was like their first roster. That included me, a couple of the XUp players, and that roster didn't end up panning out. And so from there, they kind of pivoted to, okay, now you can kind of build what you want, right? And, what do you recommend? And so I started kind of banging this out. And the first step was bringing in Kaplan as an assistant coach. And then Rory was next after that. So it was really kind of like a round table between the three of us where, we're all like pitching ideas and stuff. And, I'm like, okay, this one sounds good. This one sounds good. Let's reach out to these people. And, we reached out to a ton of people. We talked to a ton of people, but I don't know. Like I was really looking at, we really needed like a support player, like a controller player who's going to frag out. So someone like a Marved, right? But Marved didn't really want to play. He's kind of ready to take his break and retire for a bit. And, to me as a coach, like maybe I'll play, that's not really appealing. Like I want people who are hungry for it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Pancata was really interesting to me. And so we reached out to Pancata, and obviously with that to Sassy, we had just heard through the grapevine like 3 hours prior that the team was breaking up. And so we started sliding in DMs, it's just the way it goes. And
so this I thought was quite interesting to hear, just because there was concerns and some rumors and some questions about whether TenZ and Marved could work, because there was the whole Kaide drama a little while ago. Marved said what he said, and then TenZ was not so happy about it. And there were some questions whether they could really get along and actually team together, and whether it was kind of like a one or the other thing, right? Whether if they get Marved, then TenZ is going to go, or if they don't get Marved, then TenZ is going to stay. Turns out they don't get Marved, but they could have potentially got both, and clearly Psycho was looking for this option, right? He talked to Marved, wanted to make it happen. Marved had the offer, right? And that was the question that Marved had against George Geddes and stuff, that whether he had offers or didn't have offers. Clearly Marved did have a Sentinels offer, or at least they were interested in a player just like Marved. They wanted a Marved, but they couldn't get the real Marved because he thought that, you know what, he wants to take a break, step away. Even he mentioned the word retire there, briefly retire before returning. And that's the thing, we don't really have too much history of this in, well, Valorant in general, as to when players retire. Can they easily return? Is it a possibility? Like at Marved, of course, he's taking a break, but there's been other players in past esports that have taken a break and then never really ever return. We don't think that's going to be the case with Marved, certainly hope not, but yeah, quite remarkable that he's taken a break at this point. Of course, this was never going to be the real team here, but I thought it was interesting to note regardless. So yeah, what do you guys think about that? As Marved made a big mistake here, because I mean, look, he might only get this chance to be on Sentinels, and yes, he's understandably wants to take a break for his own personal reasons, and he must have a good reason to want to take a break. And some were speculating that he's only saying that he wants to take a break just because, like, his offers have fallen through and it's kind of like a defensive thing. But clearly that's not the case, because he had the Sentinels option there, as Psycho was pointing out, but he said no, or he said I'm not sure, and therefore very quickly they changed their minds. And maybe Marv changed his mind a couple of weeks later, but of course by that time that the ship had already sailed on the Sentinels front with the Loud guys, with Sassy and Pancada now. So yeah, I don't know, with Marv it's tough, because when he does want to return, will the options be there for teams like Sentinels that might just be dominant with their new roster, and then they're not going to be able to find room for Marv regardless of what happens going forward. Also to note here was on BCJ, because also Psycho said that it's mind-blowing to him that BCJ was a player that he probably wanted to bring along, but just the way the roles worked wasn't really going to work out there on Sentinels. But BCJ, unrestricted free agent, no buyout. Anyone could get BCJ right now, but yet they're not. He even talked actually in this kind of tweet longer that a lot of people have misconceptions on his health, that he's actually like that it's a bit of a concern for him. He says that actually is perfectly fine, and wants to make sure really that organizations that might be considering BCJ don't consider the health issues that he's got to be a detriment, because he can deal with them perfectly well and still be, as we saw, one of the best players in the entire world. So very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. One question recently on Sui2K as to whether he's going to be returning to Valorant, or what exactly the plan is going to be there on the pro side. Maybe a tier 2 Ascension roster is a possibility. And just to say real quick, another couple of videos we did over at the Breaking Point Valorant channel, one of them on dapr and some others in terms of some, well, great highlight clips really proving why these guys deserved a spot in franchising, but it hasn't been given to them just yet, or maybe won't be for quite some time. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.